Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPNP News. It's March 20th, 2026, and I've been watching what's been happening the last week, and I'm highly concerned. I'm highly concerned about my country, about the world itself, about our ascension process. I'm concerned about all these people who seem to be misinforming us on a daily basis about things that haven't happened yet, about events that they keep saying are going to happen that never do happen, and what kind of effect that has on people who keep watching the same people over and over, hoping that something's going to change, and it never does, right? And for years I've watched these pundits and people who claim to have access to information and who know shit, and the reality of it is that none of these people actually know what's going on fully, right? None of us do. None of us have ever known what's been going on fully. And I remember when I watched the Twin Towers fall down right in front of my eyes, I said, there's obviously something else going on here, right? When you get over the shock of what that was and how that happened, you realize there's something else going on here, right? That's behind the scenes that you don't know about. Panic sees as banks seize 40,000 homes in a single month as foreclosure tsunami sweeping America. J.D. Vance fears Iran war was a disaster as the 2028 odds crash. It's an article in the Daily Mail. Of course, that's an article that some people say, well, that's a Daily Mail rag. Sure, I like to show you what different viewpoints are trying to say about the Iran war. And you know what's funny is, you could really, we're at such a place with technology now that you can do a war, or you can make a war appear to be happening and it's not happening, right? Remember Wag the Dog? Kind of like what Iran seems like to me. It's like, is this really a war or is it not a war? There's a bunch of rockets fell, some people got killed, but that could be faked. There's people are saying, Israel's about to be overrun by Iran. That's not what I'm seeing on the ground. Like I said, if there were troops encircling Israel, there would be some independent press somewhere in some country talking about it with photo evidence of large amounts of Iranian troops or other that seem to be surrounding a country, which I don't think they can do. They're being bombarded right now. You think they're ready to invade Israel? I don't think so. Are they going to shoot some rockets at Israel? Sure. Victim identified in Old Dominion University shooting. As it's revealed, brave students fought ISIS-linked gunmen to the death as he shouted Allahu Akbar. So these people, they killed this guy without a gun. So you can imagine what that might be like. Maybe they beat him to death with a chair or something with their bare hands. I don't think most people understand what it takes to do that. And I don't think you'd ever want to know, would you? No. Go talk to some people who fought in trench warfare or hand-to-hand combat with close quarters combat in war, right? Those are things you don't want to ever experience. Trust me on that. You're seeing more and more people just losing their shit and going into a school and shooting it up, right? What's the motivation behind that? Well, it gives negative loosh. It's negative vibrations. It pushes the argument that the left has had for years that guns are dangerous. Nobody should have a gun. You should not have to give in all your guns. But of course, people are smarter than that here in the United States. They see that what other countries happen to the people who gave up their guns in other countries, and usually it's not good, right? Because then the government can move in and do whatever they want, and you have no recourse. You can't defend your own home anymore. Michigan synagogue shooter who drove car into Jewish temple is praised by neighbors in Muslim enclave where he lived. Yeah. So there's people right next door to this area saying, hey, that's a great thing you did trying to bomb and kill all those Jews. But what if it was the other way around? What if a white Jewish guy or just a white person started to bomb mosques? And the people in the Jewish community said, that's a great thing you're doing. We're praising you. There's no other religion that really does that. And there's some interesting video going around. I don't know if I think the gentleman was Jewish, but he knows his Quran very well. And he's having he's talking with different people who are treating him horribly online with racist tropes, and he's going through the Quran with them and saying, hey, this is this passage, and it says that you should kill the infidel and take their women if they're not Muslim, and this and that, right? And the guy said, no, that's not what the Quran says. And he says, oh, yeah, it does. Here's the passage, and I'll even sing it to you in your own language. That's a guy that can't be repudiated because he's using your own book against you, right? That this religion has violent passages in some of its, in the Quran, right? That's talking about, hey, you can treat these people this way or that way. By the way, the same kinds of things are in the Talmud if you read parts of it. That say, hey, if these people aren't Jews, you could do whatever, you could steal from them. You could take things from them. You could hurt them. It's the same thing in parts of the Quran that says, hey, you know what? If you go into an area and you take it over, you could take that guy's women and enslave them and make them yours and put them in your harem if you want. Where is the godliness in that? I don't know. You got to find that out for yourself, right? So there's multiple religions that have violent passages in them that say, hey, if these other people that aren't of your religion, you could treat them any way you want. It doesn't matter. They don't count the same. That's a problem, right? Not just for the Muslim religion, but for the Jewish religion and other religions who follow certain, and not all Jews follow the Talmud, because I've looked into it pretty extensively. A lot of Jews, I think, interpret the Torah as the main teaching book, not the Talmud. The Talmud was something that came later by certain groups that sought control, right? That's my interpretation, at least, on it. The Quran is a whole other thing that you got to study very deeply to fully understand, but it does have its own tropes in there that are similar, right? I'll go try to find that gentleman who's interpreting the Quran that way and reading it and having back and forth arguments with certain Muslims and he's proving to them his point by using their own religious book against them, right? To show them I'm not just making this up, it's real. So we have a huge problem in this world where, and this has been, it's happened throughout history, right? As soon as religions were created, they were used as a form of control over the populace. To put you in fear of God, to put you in fear of being a sinner, right? Florida legislature passes new voter ID law similar to the SAVE Act, but the SAVE Act didn't pass yet. And how's that going to work? Does everybody need a passport? Is that the only form of documentation I'm going to be allowed? That's a very expensive document. It's the most expensive document that you can acquire, at least in this country. It's easy to forge or get a license, a driver's license. Plenty of illegal aliens came to New York and were given driver's licenses where they shouldn't have been because they're not residents of the state or the city. Only residents of the state of New York get a New York state issued driver's license. You have to prove residency in the state first, right? For instance, if I want to move from New York to, say, to Nevada, I have to live in Nevada for, I think, 6 months or something like that, and show proof of I have a residence there with a bill of some kind, right? Like a phone bill or a cable bill or a power bill that says, hey, this guy lives at 123 Sycamore Road, and he's lived there for 6 months. Here's the power bill to prove he's been living there. He's been paying, right? Okay, now I could switch my license and get a Nevada license. I have to live 180 days in the state of, or whatever that each state has different rules. But you have to live there a certain amount of time per year. You can't just sneak in over the border and say, hey, I want a driver's license so I could work illegally in your state. New York has to be one of the most insane, any sanctuary state that has that rule should be abolished because it doesn't represent the people of the state of New York. It doesn't account for them, or it's giving monies away to people who aren't citizens and residents of the state. That should be illegal. I thought it was. Apparently it's not. Never before seen picture of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. and Pete Mandelson wearing their bathrobes with Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't look at this. Let's check this out. Some saucy stuff here, right? We got Mountbatten in his undies and his tidy whities hanging out with who? Mandelson. Here they are. Chilling. And there's Epstein in the background running the whole show. This looks like some cottage house. I don't know where they are. Where are they? The picture which shows the disgraced ex-prince and former U.S. ambassador in bathrobes while Epstein is fully clothed is believed to have been taken outside at Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. Yeah, it's the Vineyard. Where, what's his name has a big house, right? Obama. Remember the chef drowning in 5 feet of water? With a paddle board? It's kind of hard to do, no? How do you drown in 5 or 6 feet of water when you're 6 foot tall guy who's strong, can swim on a paddle board? Did he fall off, hit his head on a rock underneath and drown? But he's wearing a flotation device probably, no? Not always, right? I mean, some people paddleboard, I guess, and they don't like, or stand paddleboard, right? When you're standing and rowing and doing that, right? I guess some people don't wear a life jacket, but you're supposed to kind of, right? Like if you're not experienced in the water and you might want to wear one, right? We don't know if he did or didn't. Let's just hypothesize, though, and say he didn't, right? Then it's going to take 2 strong people to drown him. Not one. He's a big, strong dude. It's going to take either somebody incredibly fucking strong that can incapacitate him quickly, take him in the water, and that, like a SEAL could do that, like a Navy SEAL, sure, easy. Right? Get you from behind in some kind of choke, take you out into the deeper water, and SEALs can hold their breath like 3 or 4 minutes, most of them, right? Most people who are like a regular person who's being choked from behind, you can't hold your breath 3 minutes. You choke out, right? You'll gas out because you're panicked, you're being choked from behind underwater by a superior force. I don't know. That's just, I'm hypothesizing. They could have drugged the guy. It could have been a lot of different things. Why do these people like to hang around in their bathrobes talking to each other? What, do they just have a sex session? These people like to have sex with each other too, right? That's the other part. Some of these guys are bisexual or gay. So there's Andrew in his underwear or in his bathrobe with the American ambassador. Getting a little too cozy, right? It's not looking good. Eerie trio of UFOs were spotted chasing each other over New York. I haven't seen anything at night over New York. I have seen some clouds in the daytime that look just like spacecraft. Huge clouds. They look like craft, like that. And I know that some of these crafts can do that, where like they can make clouds appear and hide themselves in those clouds. So I don't know. Is something going to unmask itself at some point? I keep hearing rumors that that's going to happen, but it never does. I keep hearing rumors about an emergency broadcast system. It never happens. I keep hearing rumors about 3 days of darkness, 10 days of darkness, and it never happens. So all I could tell you is there's a lot of people that keep trumpeting the same shit trying to make it happen, and it's not happening. Because I think they're trying to make us manifest it. And it's not working. And it's not going to work. International Financial Center in Dubai is hit by kamikaze drone. What you're seeing is a lot of people are bailing out of Dubai, right? Why? Well, because it's being bombed. But what's going on there, really, right, is some insidious shit is what's going on over there. Right? You ever see these, like, Instagram models and stuff? They're, like, super hot. They're always at some exotic place. A lot of them go there. Well, that's why. They're going there for, like, sex and stuff, right? Some of these sheikhs, they got so much money you don't believe it. They rent out a whole hotel floor, like in the Waldorf, right? You know how much that costs to rent off like the top floors in the Waldorf? Get a couple of barrels of coke up there, right? Get some prostitutes up there. Get 7, 8, 10 women up there having parties that go on for days. That goes on in New York all the time. Used to, especially in the 80s. when I say barrels of coke, I'm not kidding. These people got money like you can't believe, and they throw it around. They're looking for women to do certain sexual acts that are outside the purview that most people would want to do or will do. I won't go into more detail, but I think you can understand what it is, right? If you figure it out, if you know what fetishes and things that some of these disgusting men have. They like to make women... It's not about just sex with a woman for these people, right? It's about degrading of women. It's about degrading a woman, making her less than. International Financial Center in Dubai was hit by a kamikaze drone. Iran's missiles are down 90%, drone attacks down 95%. At some point, they're going to shoot their load, right? In other words, not to use a sexual term, but right? They only have so many of those drones. I don't know how many they can keep making while they're being bombarded by us. But are we really doing that much damage to them? It's hard to say. Yeah, we see a bunch of shits blowing up, but that's what the Iran Gulf War was too, right? Eventually you had to go in there with ground troops and clear the whole thing out. You can't just bomb a couple places and say, hey, we won, man. It's over. Hey, you can do that if it's a small country that doesn't have a large amount of different munitions and arms all over the place and a huge army. First photo of Michigan terrorists who tried to murder Jewish toddlers, as it's revealed his brothers were suspected Hezbollah. So you got Hezbollah in the country. That's not supposed to happen. And then you have other people like, I don't know, what was there? Wasn't there another Hezbollah guy's daughter? She was running a bakery or something, like a coffee shop in California. What's going on, man? Where's your immigration work? Where's your vetting of these people? Right? And thank God that the explosives that were in this guy's car didn't go off somehow. Right? Same thing with the bomb that this kid tried to throw at the cops in New York that was lit, right? And somehow it didn't go off. Whether because they didn't make it right or whatever, or maybe God was acting in his own way, right? I'm thinking that was an act of God because both of those things didn't happen. The vibrational energy is such a place that I don't think a lot of these things can happen anymore. Negative people like this are just going to cease to be around because they can't exist in the energy. That's why all these stars are bailing out, right? The ones that were in the Black Eye Club, like you used to see all those photos of the black, it was all of them, right? All the big stars were taken over, I think, and the politicians too. We saw Bush with the black eye. Remember Bush Senior with the lizard pupil, when he's saying that with his famous speech, he has the lizard pupil. Well, if he has the lizard pupil, that means that he's Draco Reptilian. He's a shapeshifter. He got taken over by them. They're at the highest level of your government. And they've been there, I'm assuming, for a long-ass time. And before our government, and they were back there with the Romans and shit like that, doing it back then. It makes a whole lot of sense, because I used to always wonder, why is history so filled with blood and conquest for? Why didn't these people ever get it? You'd think after 1,000 years of blood and conquest, you'd say, okay, maybe let's try another way. How about peace? Excuse me. How about prospering your brother and your neighbor? How about letting people flourish? How about letting the world come out of the fucking dark ages and learn some shit? Right? There's been this force that every time humanity seeks to rise out of the darkness again, where it's been thrown again and again by plague or things that appear to be natural disasters that weren't, and every time we try to rise back up, there's some invisible force that's knocking us back down, right? Well, that's these people. Trump sends chilling message to Iran vowing unparalleled firepower against deranged scumbags. That was an interesting term. You didn't see too many past presidents talking about another country, talking about their leadership as deranged scum. I gotta say, I like that particular comment. I agree with. Humanoid robot detained by cops after terrorizing an elderly woman on the street. This was in New York City. The robot was terrorizing this older lady. I don't know where the robot's handlers were, because usually they don't just let robots walk around New York. But this robot was terrorizing this woman to the point where she's like, "Stop following me," and waved her bag in its face. Now, what if this robot took that as a threat and attacked her and really did hurt this woman? Remember in Ex Machina? I was watching Ex Machina, was on last night on a rerun, and I didn't remember that part where like the robot stabs him. Which, if you think about it, that would be breaking the first rule like the robots should have. The most ingrained rule was do no harm, never harm humans, right? That should be all robots' first operative, or one of the top 3. Never harm human beings, ever, or any living thing, any animal or etc. Right? I mean, okay, you wouldn't have them maybe not hurting like a plant or something, but nothing alive like a living thing you shouldn't harm. That's Buddhism's way. If they're going to build a structure, they'll even dig up the ground and get all the worms and things out of the dirt first to like make sure they don't hurt anything. Imagine how long that takes. I got to search all the dirt for the worms and bugs, and then I'll be able to do the foundation, sir. I can't build the house right yet. Well, how many worms are you going to take out? However many there happen to be in the dirt. It could be 5,000. We don't know. So this poor woman's being harassed by this robot. And it's pretty big, right? The robot's almost like 5 feet tall, it looks like, this particular kind. It looks like it's pretty agile. It looks like it could hurt somebody too, right? It has hands. I don't know what's the strength. Some of these robots are not that strong, right? They can only lift like very light things, so they're not. But if it's capable, strong enough to put its hand around her throat, it could kill her, right? Bot the hell? A startled senior was seen raging at a robot on it. Oh no, it was in Macau. Sorry, this wasn't in New York. It was in China. My bad. But this was in China, and they see here's the handler, and I guess the handler like didn't have it in control enough. It got in control. It got into the woman's personal space, and 2 cops had to escort the humanoid off the street. Yeah, I don't think it's really that smart to have these things out in public like this, when you can't guarantee the public safety. My friend Zink and Ivy said, "Hello Ash, hope you find a location where you can stay chill most of the time. All's well here." When I shut off the screen, take care. Oh, what turned into a most interesting convo. She's got me. She sent the link. I appreciate you. I haven't found anywhere yet to go to. No, I'm still looking around. I'm still thinking about where to go. Some of the places I had originally thought to go, I don't think it's going to work out. It's just difficult, man, to get up out of this place. It's not just like I can walk up out of here. So I got to figure it out. It's taken much longer than I thought, and I have other family problems that I'm dealing with my dad's estate and things that I don't have control over. So unfortunately, I'm waiting on other people and things of that nature, so I have to just kind of go slow right now. I'm also really kind of lately been very kind of getting down about this whole process, and I'm really upset, like I guess a lot of other people are, that we haven't seen any arrest of any major people still. I mean, this is already, we're going into Trump's, what, this the second year? No, first year. But it's close to half over already, and we don't have anything positive really to talk about besides ICE taking some illegal aliens out of the country, which I'm all for. But there's millions and millions more you got to take out that you still haven't taken out. United States and Chile signed pact on critical minerals and rare earths. That's a big deal because we need to stop China's incursion into these areas where, if you think about Central and South America and Mexico, you're talking about close to half the world's, or close to, just a few of those countries have close to half or more than a quarter of the world's silver production right there. Mexico's a huge producer of silver. I think one of those other, Bolivia or one of the other countries, has a lot of silver too. And they also got rare earths, stuff like that. Coltan's really what they want, and other rare earths. FBI opens a permanent office in Ecuador. as U.S. boosts security ties. UFC fighters to train FBI agents at Quantico. That's smart. Yeah, get the best jiu-jitsu guy you have and start training those guys. Especially the women. They need that because a woman needs jiu-jitsu to help. If you know jiu-jitsu well enough, I don't think it's possible for a guy to overcome you and rape you unless he gets you from behind and knocks you unconscious. Because the whole thing about jiu-jitsu is once you grab me or I grab you, I got you. Once I get a hold of you, you're in trouble. Especially if I have a strong grip and I know jiu-jitsu and you don't, right? So if a guy grabs a woman thinking she's not going to know anything, she's not going to fight back, this will be easy. I'm stronger than her. You're in trouble. Even if it's someone that's much less strong, because if she knows how to grab your arm the right way, she'll break it. Right? If she puts you in an arm bar, she's going to break your fucking arm, unless she doesn't want to. Right? Because once you're in that position where you're arm barred and you're trying to tap out, but hey, this is a fight, there is no tap out. There's no stop. It stops when it's over, when somebody's either unconscious or runs away or whatever, right? Gives up and maybe I let you go, maybe not. Lula Flavio Bolsonaro tied in Brazil presidential runoff poll. Bolsonaro and Lula are tied. Are they using Dominion voting machines still? That's what I wrote. It appears so. U.S. obliterates every military target on Iran's oil-critical Karg Island in historic bombing raid. But now they were saying that Trump might invade Karg Island. Why is that island so important? Is President Trump a time traveler? Century-old sketches sparked new conspiracy theory. Another thing came out that said Trump on it. It was an old drawing or something, right? Remember Baron von Trump? We were talking about that. We had the whole book. Here it says Trump. From sketches to Fifth Avenue. Is Trump rewriting history one timeline at a time? Conspiracy theorists are baffled by 100-year-old sketches by Prussian-born artist Charles Delchaux. And it says Trump, and there's a balloon, some kind of I don't know what it is. Skycraft? I've seen these things they're dirigibles, but they're more from the past, they're older than that. Like the older balloons and craft that could somehow float. I had heard that the way they were doing the flying carpets was it was along the ley lines using some type of technology. That you can be anti-gravitic and travel along the ley lines with some of that tech. And that's how they were flying, real flying carpets. I don't know if that's true, though. Tartaria, right? That's the other thing. What happened to Tartaria? The giants. Because this guy looks like Baron Trump looks like he's a giant, right? He's 6'8", he's huge. Towers over his dad. Of course, his parents are both tall. She's 5'11" or 6 feet, and he's 6'3", the original Trump. Or 6'2". Vance is 6'2". Not everybody's buying the chatter. Kai Trump is unequivocal. I don't want to go down those rabbit holes. The story gets spicier with Delchaux's imagined anti-gravity fuel dubbed NB gas or soup, which powered his flying machines. UFO enthusiasts are already pointing out that it sounds a lot like what the government calls unidentified anomalous phenomena. Well, there's Ingersoll Lockwood. We went into that a long time ago. I actually posted both of the books. I posted the audio book of the Baron von Trump, and I also posted the other one, the other shorter book, which talks about a president who comes in and tries to change the system and stuff like that. Except he's not really changing the system that much, is he? That's the fucking problem. Where's my medical bed? Where's my new quantum banking system? Why isn't the banking system totally imploded? Although the Dow's down, 4 or 5,000? The Dow's at 45,000. So it hit 50 and boom, it tanked 5,000. That's a fairly large correction. Gold's down 4,500 to 4,500. So they took $1,000 almost off gold. They've knocked silver down to $70, 71. They knocked it down hard. They're knocking it down another $4. It's at $69. They're trying to get everybody to sell their silver, right? They want you to sell physical. Why? Because they need it. Silver is really worth way more than this, but what they're doing is they're trying to knock the price down. One, some people are saying to knock out the paper system, to knock the paper traders completely out. But what this is algorithmic trading that's driving the price down. You're using this system, you're using these algorithmic trades to drive it down. The paper market shouldn't exist. It should be illegal, in my view, to do. J.P. Morgan and these banks should have been arrested and barred from ever trading any kind of metals because they are, in fact, doing arbitrage on the metals market, in my view. You have silver at $69.37. It was at $120. They've knocked it in half. They've knocked 50% off the price of silver. But has that happened naturally? No, it's happened through manipulation by banks and large players. The question is, why isn't Trump doing anything about it? Why isn't Trump defending the silver price and defending the comics? Do they want the comics to implode? Because it doesn't have all the silver, right? If I buy 100 million ounces of silver or 10 million ounces and it's these bars, and then you allocate that same amount bars of silver to another buyer, and we both want delivery, that can't happen. Somebody's going to not get their silver and they're going to be pissed off. You're going to have to pay them back in cash, which they don't want. They want the silver, not the cash. Pentagon is sending an assault ship with at least 2,500 Marines toward Iran. And then there's people saying that the U.S.S. Nimitz was bombed and it's at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, can anybody get some kind of confirmation about that? I think that would be a major thing. There'd be hundreds of dead troops if that happened. I'm not seeing that happen. So I'm assuming the U.S.S. Nimitz, there was a fire on board, but I don't believe it sank. So why are these people talking about stuff like that's not true? If a major U.S. boat sank, it would be major news somewhere. Somebody would be reporting it. There'd be photos of it sinking. Judge quashes subpoenas for Fed Chair Jerome Powell. UPI. U.S. allows temporary purchases of Russian oil already at sea to stabilize energy. So, Israel bombing the Iranian oil fields, some of them, wasn't a smart idea because why? Well, now they're bombing other countries' oil. Which doesn't hurt us. Well, it does hurt us in the end, right? We need to start using our own oil reserves now, and we need to start manufacturing more oil. What we really need is free energy, but unfortunately, see, if in Trump's first term we had gone to Tesla tech, we'd have the advantage. We would have the technology. We'd have been the first to have it, and then we could either lease it out to other countries or give it out free. But we didn't do that, right? No. Then you could have as many data centers as you ever wanted to have, and then they could be powered for free. So why wouldn't the deep state want that? Well, because the Tesla tech is like the electroculture tech, right? Where if I take copper and zinc, was it? They found out that if they take copper and zinc and they put them together and they run electrical current, your crop yields will double. Your crops will, not only will they grow bigger, they'll bud sooner. Right? The electroculture movement's coming back. People are realizing I don't need pesticides. Right? If I just take a copper wire and stick it into the earth and wrap it around a piece of wood, let the earth be my magnifier and make the earth be the way that I can keep bugs off of my crops. And there was there's stories about how people did this in the past. There was scientists that hundreds of years ago that did results, that did experiments on it like this, and it came out correct. And of course, it was never adopted by mainstream because then what did they have to do at the end of the First or Second World War? They had all this sodium nitrate and all this stuff. Well, we needed to get rid of it. What do we do with all this stuff that we were making the bombs with? We have all this stuff now, and we have no way to get rid of it. Well, let's make it into fertilizers. And that's how the fertilizer industry started. But there never was a need for a fertilizer industry. All you needed is electroculture or using copper wire and all this stuff and let the earth do it for you, right? Just give the right resonant vibration around your crops and they grow like crazy. The government didn't want you to know that, though, because they want you to buy fertilizer like crazy. October 7th survivor has blistering message for New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's rape hoax believing wife. These are facts, right? Women were raped. There's physical documentation of it. You know what happens when a bunch of men rape somebody? There's a lot of damage to the body. This isn't something that could be just say that it's a lie, right? There's been medical documentation of everything these people did, these animals. They even filmed most of it, right? Yet there's people like this woman who are saying that they're happy that it happened, right? They feel good about it. And then what happens later? They look into her old ex account and she's talking about, she's using the N-word like she's black, like she's an African American. She's spouting off about, hey, N-word, to her friends like it's funny, like it's a joke. It's not a joke. You're a bigot. You and your husband. I say it openly with no reservation whatsoever. Schoolboy charged with groping 9 11th grade classmates is exposed as an adult illegal alien released under Biden. So that was happening overseas, right? These guys were trying to get into school and they're like 20 years old. They look young. Yeah, I'm 15. Put me in the high school. Really? You're a 21-year-old male, turns out. This kid should be charged with rape and deported or put in a jail cell. Instead, he's probably going to get to stay. Trump's UFO release could include videos, photos of non-human craft proving we aren't alone. I wrote, no, that's not good enough. That's not even close to being good enough. All that could be faked. We need to see a real live alien that you're talking to on air. We need it to be a live alien that we could see, touch, talk to, and we need to see a craft that we can see and touch and ride in, where the press can be taken up in that craft with, and news photos and cameras can be taken, photos can be taken of it by multiple people and angles, and it could be beamed out on a live newscast all over the world. That's how you do it. Not with a couple of pictures and some old grainy videotape, which is fucking bullshit. Pictures and video can be faked. It's going to have to be much more than this. The public won't stand for anything less. This is fucking bullshit. Just like with the med beds. Hey, you got a med bed? Well, what are you fucking waiting for? People are dying every fucking day. And then you're going to tease us with it and show it a little brief thing and then you never mention it again? And then you get us into a war? Come on, man. Explosion damages Jewish school in Amsterdam in deliberate attack. So there was a whole bunch of attacks against certain Jewish synagogues, schools around the world after, of course, Trump goes into Iran. Or in Israel bombs Iran. I said I'm noticing a pattern of synagogues being attacked now, ramping up. That was from New York Post. Humanoid robot detained by cops. Double confirmation. That's out of China. Inside the Moroccan palace, Epstein tried to purchase this days before his arrest. So he was trying to buy this palace for some reason, right? What else is he trying to buy? He's trying to buy something, on Dog Island or one of the islands around where he's trying to buy the smaller of the islands that he's near, right, too. So he's trying to buy both, and he's trying to buy this thing. When you got $600-700 million, you could buy multiple properties and afford to keep them, right? Upkeep it. once you got a couple of 100 million, it's not too hard to make more money, right? It becomes easier the more you have, in a sense. You can buy expensive real estate and hold it for a year or two and then flip it for more profit. You can make LLCs. You can buy large amounts of certain things like gold, silver, and other things, stock or whatever, right? Futures. Antifa cell operatives were convicted over violent attack on Texas ICE facility, including leader who shot down a police officer. These people are very violent, and I thought we were supposed to be going after them in Trump's first term, and that never happened. He didn't, I don't believe, even make them a terrorist cell or whatever, or didn't designate them as terrorists till his second term, right? He should have done that in his first term. Missile strikes inside U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad as Trump's Iran war spirals out of control. Extreme Mamdani estate tax proposal goes right after New York's middle-class families. So now he's looking to tax the middle class, not just the rich. And that's going to be a big problem. You can't get reelected if you do that, that's for sure. This guy's a one-term mayor for sure. I'd be shocked if he got reelected. I'd be shocked if he even lasted 4 years. At the rate he's going. And the things that him and his wife are saying. I'm surprised there's not already people at City Hall with signs every day saying you're a bigot. Why is your wife using the N-word? Do you think just because you're Muslim that you can use that word? I don't believe that's true. It's a derogatory word. Nobody should use it. Not even black people, I don't think. I've never liked hearing the word used. I've been called it. Some of these guys, they'll call anybody that word. It doesn't matter what race you are. That's what I don't understand. It's like, I'm white. Why are you, or whatever. I look Caucasian. Why are you saying the N-word at me? Like I'm that. I don't understand. I'm confused. I do not know what you're saying. If he tries this, his re-election chances are almost nil. If you're going to tax the middle class and raise their taxes on top of the on top of the rich because you have such a budget deficit, you can't do it that way. You have to start pulling money out of certain agencies, cutting people jobs at certain agencies, making massive budget cuts to certain large agencies that are bloated. And look at some of these people who work in like the sanitation and different departments who have hundreds of thousands of dollars of salary. You can get rid of some of those people. There's redundancies there. There's certain people that have used the system and have huge salaries now that don't need to be there anymore. That should be probably forced out. Because if a guy's making $150,000, I can get some new guy in, 2 new guys in there and pay them $40,000 each. Then I got double the, and I'm still saving money, right? Fire erupts at port of Fujairah in United Arab Emirates after drone strike. It looks like the plan is to bomb global oil refineries, I wrote, and ports, thus pushing the oil price sky high, which in turn makes it more expensive for everyone to get their food because it's delivered to many areas via vehicles, trucks, etc., train, diesel train. The other part of it is, well, it makes it harder to extract silver and these things out of the ground. You need oil to extract silver and gold, right? You need oil to run the trucks and gasoline to run the big trucks that take the dirt and that power the big machines that are digging up the earth, right? And then that all that dirt needs to be taken somewhere to a machine that can sift the dirt, right, and get the gold and the silver or whatever it is you're looking for out of that. That's a process, right? That requires large vehicles. That requires a lot of gasoline, oil, and such to lubricate all those vehicles' machine parts. If you had free energy, if you had 0-point energy, you could run these machines all day and all night long for free. That's what we need, right? That's how you maximize profit. If you ask any of these mine guys, hey, if you could run your trommel 24 hours a day and not have to pay for it, would you rather that? Of course they would. There's nobody who would say no to that. And your phone's free? Sure. I want that. Of course I do. Oh, and by the way, the resonant level that it vibrates at is healthy for you? Yeah, that's a bonus that I would like. Multi-sensory ad campaign for Magnum ice cream unleashed an unexpected aroma in a train tunnel, leaving commuters confused. So what did they do? They released stuff in the train again. They've done this in New York multiple times. This was London they did this in. So they released a certain scent in the train. Why would they do that? Well, because, what do you think? They're trying to see if they release a poison in the train system, how many people could we kill? Is it enough to really scare everybody? How much poison do we need to release to kill the people? Because it'll be diffused by the system. How far will the systems, any system underground has currents that the trains move air around as they push through the tunnels, right? So as the train arrives in the station, there's a big breeze hits you, right, ahead of the train. Because it's pushing air through the tunnel, right, as it's coming closer to the station. They've done this in New York before. The same thing. They've released stuff like toxins or something that would make people have a certain reaction, and everyone's like, why are you doing that? Why would you do that? We didn't okay you to do that. Brazil's Bolsonaro was hospitalized with bacterial pneumonia. That's not good. I'm also hearing another thing. If you have on your license the organ donor checked off, you might want to get rid of that your next time around and don't have it checked as an organ donor. The reason is I've heard some horror stories of people who have been in car accidents and have that checked off on their license, and then they ended up going into the hospital with something that was survivable and not coming back out. Because they want your fucking organs that bad. They're worth that much money. And I have it checked on my license, so I'm scared now. I'm about to redo my license next year, I think. So when I do it, I'm going to take that off, the organ donor on my license. I know some people think it's a great thing to do, but I'm kind of nervous about it now that I heard that particular thing. It got me thinking. Of course, you're free to do whatever you want, right? Top DEA fugitive Sebastian Marseille was captured in Bolivia and sent to the United States. Not sure what he was. Was he a drug person or something? Just wanted to note that. UPI News. U.S. targets high oil price by allowing Moscow to sell sanctioned oil. So I wrote, I have lost the narrative again of who is the good guys in this battle. I have a hard time seeing Trump as being that good guy with his actions both in his first and now second terms. Who is really the good guy in this? Is there a good person in this, or is it just supposed to be that we think it's Trump, but they've taken over Trump? He's being run by the Black Sun people. And then you have the other group, which seems to be these dragon families and other families, powerful families like that want control, that Benjamin Fulford claims to have access to, saying, hey, we have all this money we'll offer you, if you just go along with this new system we want to put in place, which we don't know what that is. But it's probably with China leading the way, right? It'll be China leading the way. And you won't be the United States anymore. You'll just be Zone 7. Okay. The problem with that scenario for China, though, is that if you put the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Central and South America into those areas that are to get connected, well then, that leaves that area with a lot of power in terms of the amount of silver and gold they have and other assets like that. Oil, rare earths, stuff like that you're going to need going forward. So China's going to want a piece of that, and that's why they've been moving in those regions so long. U.S. targets high oil price. Well, that's going to stop as soon as this Iran thing ends, right? Unfortunately, what Trump's doing is affecting also the silver and gold market and other markets too, right? It's causing a lot of problems all over the world because you need to move. Oil is what moves produce. Oil moves food and produce and things around the world and goods to market, right? Zoran Mamdani and radical mayors of 5 other embattled Dem cities plot a lefty supergroup. So these people get in control, and what do they first start to do? They're already starting to form a group that's going to, enforce their own interests, right? Whatever those are. Representative Jim Clyburn, 85 years old, is seeking re-election again. He wasn't, forget retiring, of course not. These people are going to die in their office, right? Why is it that these politicians almost never retire, right? Instead, they just die. They usually die in office. Very few of them step down. Very few. FBI opens permanent office in Ecuador. Double confirmation. Why are they doing that all of a sudden? Ohio State names new president to replace Ted Carter. So that caught my interest because Ohio State, right? Ohio... Epstein's doing stuff over there with, what's his name, right? Les Wexner. Something went down where they had access to Ohio State at one point, right? Through that guy, that gentleman's name who we spoke of before. Forgot his name now. Iran's new supreme leader may already be dead. They also said he's possibly gay. Being gay in Iran is something that's not good for your health, right? So I don't know. Can they prove he's gay? Do they have some kind of compromise with him, like getting down with another guy? I don't know. Hegseth claims Iran's supreme leader was wounded and likely been disfigured. Paraguay approves the SOFA agreement with the U.S. granting immunity to its troops to combat terrorism and organized crime. So now we are allowed to go into Paraguay, it appears, which is good. Excuse me. Armed man in full tactical gear was arrested for entering the Texas elementary school. He was identified as Muhi Mohanad Mohammed Mohanad Najam. He was taken into custody on Wednesday at 6:30. I just saw another video where a guy's just walking down the street, I think it was somewhere in Seattle, with a rifle. And some dude just saw him, stops his car, jumps out, jumps him from behind, knocks him down, takes the rifle away. It's like, holy cow, are you kidding me right now? This guy just prevent a mass shooting with his bare hands? The person I was talking about, the other billionaire like Soros, is Hans-Jörg Wyss, right? Or Hans-Jörg Wyss. We've talked about him before, multiple times. He's another billionaire who is sending a lot of money over here to affect American politics that shouldn't be allowed to. So there's a TSA workers strike or something, right? TSA workers quit. 300 TSA workers quit amid Dems' refusal to defund the DHS. So they're not funding the DHS, and it's causing a lot of problems with TSA. Mamdani comforts New York City Muslims after outbreak of Islamophobia. It's because there's a bunch of Muslim attacks were happening, right? It's not as... People in New York don't want like this at all, trust me. They don't want Muslims praying in Times Square. They're trying to use these religions again to force us to against each other. It's an age-old tool that they use. Any kind of separation is good. Any kind of people fighting each other, hating each other is good for them. It stops our ascension process. It stops us coming together as one. That's why they don't like it when there's not some kind of ethnic strife. They don't like it if there's not religious fighting. There's got to be something that pulls us apart always. The rats are jumping ship as the Iranian regime relocating to Canada. PJ Media. Is that what's happening? Is Canada taking in some of these guys? But why isn't Iran falling? Why haven't the people rose up and marched into the buildings and taken over? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe because 50 to 100,000 of them have already been murdered. That might make you think twice about doing that. Stunning turnaround for California's oil industry after Trump's surprise executive order to help ease gas prices. Did you ever see what it used to look like around LA in the 40s? It's all oil wells. A lot of oil right there. A lot of oil. Go to the La Brea tar pits sometimes. I also saw some old map that showed California as like an island at one time, which is weird. Was California once an island that somehow became connected? I don't see how that could happen. Unless there were millions of years it could happen, maybe. Of course, there's another island off the coast of California. What's it called? Forgot the name of that little island that's off the coast there. There's a lot of islands off the coast of the United States that people don't know about. Cubans chant down with communism, attack government building during violent night of protest. I think Cuba's going to fall pretty soon. The question is, what takes the place of the Castros? Because their hold over that country is still there, unfortunately. And the people need to get free of that, right? I'm going to have to take a little break soon, guys. Let's see if I'm still recording. It looks like I am. I just upgraded this OBS studio, and it has a little bit different layout, and I wasn't sure I was still recording. So hopefully I am. Is communism going to fall in Cuba? Is it about time? Almost 65 years after the Bay of Pigs, give or take, incident. Forbes' annual World's Billionaires list is full of Jeffrey Epstein's cronies. Here's who's in the files. You know, when I'm watching a lot of these younger people's videos, and they're all saying the same thing, like, wait a minute, these people are doing what? Like, it was the same thing that was years ago when, you know, the first time adrenochrome came out. It was in the movie that I saw, like, in the 90s, right? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. The adrenochrome scene, right? They're in the hotel room, and he gives Johnny Depp the adrenochrome that he's telling him about it. That was the first time I think I'd ever heard of that term for that. I didn't know that drug before that point. And even though at that point we knew it existed, right, we didn't ask the following questions like, well, if this is out there, like, who's taking it? Like, where is it? Is it a Hollywood drug? It's the most expensive drug in the world. That's what that is. It's more expensive than any other drug by far in terms of illicit drugs. Now, the other thing I just found out is that scopolamine, right, the drug scopolamine, the devil's bush or whatever it's called, comes from a plant. So it's a plant extract that people have made into a liquid, which can be either sprayed on somebody or ingested, I believe, and elicit the same zombie-like effect. Because I was watching a gentleman who was doing a video, like I think it was in Colombia, where all of a sudden he blacked out and was taken like hostage by some people, and then manages to escape when he woke up because the drug wore off quick. He was a bigger guy maybe, and it wore off of him, and he got away. But he was like, what the hell just happened to me? I was drugged by something. So the scopolamine, I'm assuming they had made that into a liquid a long time ago at some point. That's super dangerous. That could have also been what somebody like a Cosby was using, right? Although they said he was using just like downers or whatever, you know. But these people, right? A lot of these people are all sitting around going, what the hell? These people were eating human beings and nothing's getting done about it. Yeah, exactly. And then you get these pundits that come out, oh, they all already got hung in Gitmo. We hung them all. Don't worry about it. And then what? So these people walking around that don't look like them anymore are not really them? Where'd they go? Well, they're in the pocket universe, so they got away, right? Somewhere. They're not here anymore. Too many of these stars don't look the same anymore. It's been happening for the last few years. I've been seeing it, where they go away for like a facial procedure and they come back looking different. Like Kim Kardashian's mother and stuff. And other people. Carrie's not the first. Israel planning massive ground force invasion of Lebanon. I thought they just were in Lebanon. Now they're going back. This would be the largest against Lebanon since 2006, would widen the scope of the Israel and U.S.-led Iran conflict. So this thing's getting worse. It's not getting better. Now the question is, why is Iran bombing all these other countries like Bahrain, and like they didn't do anything to you? Heroic students subdued suspected terrorist in Old Dominion attack and rendered him no longer alive. So you mean they killed him? I don't understand. Why would you just render him no longer alive? They might have choked him out, right? You could choke somebody out to death. You get someone in a rear naked choke and you just keep going too long, they're dead, right? Some people do that by accident in a fight or whatever. Trying to choke a guy out, he goes out, but you did it too long and now he's dead. That's a problem. Trump invokes Cold War emergency law to restart California's offshore oil. Newsom vows to fight back. So Newsom's working against his own country. And he's acting like he's running for president already, right? He's traveling all over the place. He's going to Davos. Who paid for you to go to Davos? That's expensive. Was that the California taxpayer? I think so. Trump announces buildup of warships in the Strait of Hormuz. So they're saying that Iran is blocking the Strait of Hormuz. How are they doing that? With bombs? With those drone boats? Why don't you just blow up the boats they're using to block the strait? Open it back up. Isn't that easy? Well, no, they have these drone bomb boats. They can just drive one of those bombs into your ship and destroy it. And then they're small and they're hard to see at night. South African president authorizes deployment of 2,200 troops to combat crime. The troops will assist the South African police service in 5 provinces, the Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, Northwest Province, and the Western Cape. Well, this is after you've killed the majority of the white farmers, right? You've killed the majority of the white farmers, raped and killed them, stolen their land, and then you know what happened? You're realizing, shit, we don't know how to farm this fucking thing. We're in trouble. We stole this guy's land and killed him. Well, you just killed all the knowledge he has of his farming knowledge. It's not easy to farm a massive farm. You gotta know what the fuck you're doing. You gotta know when to cut the crops out. You gotta know when to plant. You gotta know what fields you've used too much and what field has to lay fallow this year. You have to know about how to deal with livestock. How to deal with livestock that having babies. How to deal with livestock that get sick. It's a full-time fucking business. 24, 365, 24/7. There's no days off in a farm. Unless you got help, right? Then maybe you get a day off. Maybe. If somebody else can fill in for you. But no, farming is a full-time business. There's no vacation days. And these people realize we just killed off the majority of the people that know how to do this. I'm going to fucking starve now. Scientists create bicycle-style robot that travels at high speed while navigating obstacles. The robot relies on advanced control algorithms and AI techniques. I said, that sounds like the Terminator movie where they have the motorcycle robot, remember? There's like a motorcycle with no rider. It's an autonomous motorcycle. One of the more recent Terminator movies had robotic motorcycles that chased the characters. It was in the third one, the last, most recent one. John Connor. It chased the characters at one point, completely robotic, no human or robotic rider. It's like the whole motorcycle's a robot. Opinion piece. No, Mayor Mamdani, the First Lady of New York City is not a private role. See, that's hurting you now, isn't it? Because now your wife was stupid when she was young. She said some stupid, dumb shit, which a lot of people do on their social media. They think it's harmless, no one's going to see it, but hey, someone did see it because you ran for public office, and as soon as you do that, they go through all your past socials and your past stuff that you've posted, and they look at it, right? And it looks like you like using the N-word, and it looks like you really don't like Jews too much. So why are you running for the mayor of the city where there's the most Jews in the whole country? By far is New York. Why was this man out of prison? Why was this man in the United States, I wrote. Sorry, that was this article. Why was Robert Spencer out of prison? Let me see, what was this about? I didn't really look into it. It was 140 articles this week. Amid the spate of jihad attacks around the U.S. over the last couple of weeks, one of the perpetrators stands out for the rest. Not because he was more ruthless or brutal than the others, but because he epitomizes, the abject failure of our immigration and law enforcement systems to deal adequately with the specter of jihad violence. Mohammed Baylor Jallo was born in Sierra Leone and later became not only a naturalized U.S. citizen, but a member of the Army National Guard. He did so, as P.J. Scott Pinsker notes acidly, because of what court records termed a patriotic desire to give back to his adopted country. So that's a problem, right? When you're letting all these you naturalize a bunch of these people that you probably shouldn't naturalize. From countries like Sierra Leone, where blood diamonds used to be the way of the land, right? Where child soldiers used to be the lay of the land, right? Where what was done to people. Children were kidnapped from tribes and forced to be child soldiers, right? You can go watch the movie Blood Diamonds with DiCaprio. It wasn't a great film, but I mean, it sort of talks about the subject of blood diamonds, right? Which is diamond mines that are, forced labor diamond mines, people forced into horrific conditions mining for diamonds in parts of Africa where some parts of Africa, the diamonds are very close to the surface. They used to be. People used to find diamonds in their backyard in South Africa at one point. They were just right there below the surface, laying right on the top. Imagine walking by huge diamonds just laying there, dude. What? I heard there's a mountain of gold somewhere in the world too. That's a huge gold deposit. I don't know where it's just like a whole valley of gold. One of these countries has. Trump administration on track to receive $10 billion fee for securing TikTok sale. Investors reportedly involved in the deal include cloud computing company Oracle, private equity firm Silver Lake, and Abu Dhabi-based investment firm MGX. That's a large fee, I wrote. Yeah, it's a huge fee. So what, Trump's administration just gets $10 billion? That's like a bribe, it sounds like, right? To make this deal go through, which is, I don't like TikTok. It should be abolished, I think. It's stupid, right? It dumbs you down, it makes you stupider, and it makes you just have no attention span because you're watching a bunch of what they call reels, shorts, right? That's what they started to do. Everything has it now. Instagram has reels and shorts. Facebook has reels where you're just watching video after video. They're like a couple of minutes long, right? They're not so long that your attention span goes away. Sounds like a bribe that the Trump administration's getting to push this TikTok deal through. 3 more members of Iran's women's soccer team decided against staying in Australia. Yeah, they all went home and they were branded as traitors. I'm just praying they don't get jailed or tortured or something. I probably would have stayed in Australia, man. I don't know what the hell you were thinking. I guess you're worried about your family. You want to see your family again. If you stayed in Australia, there's a chance you might never see your family again, or it might be many years until you did. And maybe some people couldn't deal with that. Some women couldn't deal with that, right? What are you going to do? You're in a country where you don't speak the language well, you don't know anybody. It's kind of a scary thing, right? So it looks like they all went home. Dem mayor who led Gettysburg Pride arrested for sex crimes with minor. Chad Allen Carr pushed for LGBTQ messaging around the historic town where the Battle of Gettysburg took place. Isn't it funny that, not funny, but it's sad or ironic that a lot of these people who are, around this LGBTQ stuff end up being people that hurt minors, that are sexual predators. Of course, not all, but a large percentage, it appears, are. Israel confirms Michigan synagogue attacker's brother was Hezbollah terrorist commander. So we got a Hezbollah terrorist commander's brother in this country, just sitting there chilling, in Michigan, where there's a lot of Muslims. They got to go into Michigan and Minnesota hard and get rid of all those Somalis and those Muslims that are, a large amount of those Muslims that are in those places, I think. That's my view. Is Iran's injured new supreme leader in Russia? We don't know any of this, right? We don't know who's where. We don't know what's going on with the Ukraine war. We don't know what's going on in the Iran war. We don't know if it's even a war. It could just be a bunch of, like, what looks like bombs. But, I mean, you're seeing live shots of bombs coming down in, like, Dubai and other places. There obviously is something happening, right? Places are being bombed. UAE police released mugshots of 25 people arrested for sharing war footage. So you can't even share the war footage overseas in some of these states. They don't want you showing it. There's apparently some kind of blackout of a lot of press in Israel. Like, people aren't getting out. Some videos getting out. You're seeing some neighborhoods in Tel Aviv look like there is damage, right? Are the whole neighborhoods wiped out? No. Not even close. So, is it the kind of damage you saw like in Gaza? I don't believe so. Israel running critically low on ballistic missile interceptors amid Iranian bombardment. That's the problem. The Iron Dome doesn't work if you overload it with... I don't know why they just don't get a bunch of their own drone killer drones. Super small, make them super fast. Like a hummingbird type of size. Boom, with a little charge on it. That can blow up a whole bunch of drones once it detonates near some. You gotta have your own drone killer, right? That's what you need. Something that hits those drones, that's easy to produce, that's cheap to produce, that you can produce in massive amounts. This technology is already out there. It's been shown in different movies. One of the president's like White House Down movies had it, where like a bunch of drones attack the president, right? And he almost gets killed. It's a good weapon system to have. It's cheap to produce. It's highly lethal. It doesn't require a lot of technology, and it doesn't put U.S. troops at risk. IDF says Iran war could last for 6 more weeks as RAF jets take to the skies over the Middle East, while Iran insists its new supreme leader isn't dead. Okay. Is he gay? Tucker Carlson claims CIA read his text with Iran is framing him as a foreign agent. I wonder if he's actually going to turn out to be a Mossad. Because I don't trust him. I never did. And he went to see Julian Assange, remember, and then we never heard why he went there. Why was he seeing Julian Assange and then no information, no interview came out of any kind? Well, then why were you there? Just to say how you doing? I found this cool website. It's called, it has the Jeffrey Epstein network map. It's called EpsteinExposed.com. HTTPS / EpsteinExposed.com/network. It's got the entire network set up of, it's pretty cool actually, where you can see, like, if you point to any person, like here's Andrew, and there's Ghislaine and different people, right? It's like this own, like, growing thing of all the different people involved in this. It's pretty cool. And then you can go to persons, documents, flights, media. It has like all the different photos. Like here's Epstein's passport, cropped. Jeffrey Edward Epstein. Of course, he had multiple names, right? You can see the different like photos in this thing. Here's the alleged card from Donald to Epstein. It's the first 50 years, whatever that means. With some writing that we can't see. Aerial view of coastal village nestled among lush green islands. Where is this? The U.S. Virgin Islands somewhere? Here's a wooden desk with framed photographs and personal memorabilia showcasing cherished memories. Is this where the Trump photos were? Let's see if we could see a little bit closer here. This looks like Epstein and some other different people. Here's Epstein and Trump. He has a picture of him, Trump, and Melania on his desk. It's right here. This is the famous picture where he has Ghislaine cropped out of it, though. Here's Epstein and Ghislaine, meaning Pope John Paul. Excuse me. Here's a dollar bill with writing on it. Epstein and some other person, I'm not sure who. I think it's in one of these piles that he has the photo, apparently the infamous photo of Trump with the young women. But I just think it's funny he has the photo of Melania and Trump on his desk there, with Ghislaine cropped out. Here's the front of the mansion. Here's the mansion in New York City. It's a ghoulish looking place. It's got gargoyles all around it. It's number 9, which is 6 upside down. Here's the mansion. More of the mansion shots. The mansion. 9 East 71st is the mansion. Jeffrey Epstein outside the mansion. Here's when they broke into the mansion, they broke his door. It's an old locked door. It's an old door. Just a one key. Only one key to get in this guy's house. Unbelievable. Here's the door frame split open when they broke in. It's the inner foyer, I guess. So we could see all kinds of stuff in Epstein's house here. Here's the infamous Bill Clinton painting that looks like it's damaged, actually. Oh, the painting's damaged here. Somebody messed it up. It got taken down. Or interesting, the painting is damaged. Of a seated figure with a paper labeled A. Who's the seated figure? It's Bill Clinton in the blue dress. Here's the security center. Here's the nerve center right here with all the cameras and all the screens set up. He's got everything taped right here. Here's this is the nerve center. You can see it. It's got all the different things are set up here, all the different machinery. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 different monitors. So he's probably got everything on tape, right? Yeah, this is the nerve center. For sure. Got multiple desks for security to sit in or whoever. Here's all the servers and all the stuff that it runs on. All the computer, all the equipment, where all the stuff is, where all the digital files are going. There's a closet. More closets. So we can keep going through this, but I got to get back to the show. So that site is EpsteinExposed.com. Go check that out at your leisure. You can go through all the photos. You can go through all the documents. You can get the network map where it like lays out all the connections. It's whoever did that site. It's incredibly well done. Great job. That's an incredible asset to have in this thing where people can go and look and see what's going on. Video shows Arizona Center processing ballots in manner that alarms Congress's monitors. The visit by the congressional staffers sparked concerns about how Maricopa County and an outsourced third-party elections facility were handling 2024 election ballots. Well, Maricopa is where Trump was actually only down by, I think, 6,000 votes, and the whole state at the end of it, right? We remember that person got arrested, and his house raided, who had all multiple different memory sticks of the votes in his house, right? And where nobody could figure out how those votes got there. So Maricopa County, we know, was, they had the ninjas were supposed to, remember the ninja company was supposed to verify that, yeah, there's something went wrong here in Arizona, but they never seemed to really show what the fraud was, how it happened, because it was a bunch of different things. Remember there was one jurisdiction that had the wrong ballot size for the machine set up, so all the Republican ballots were getting kicked out, right? Because it was set up for a 20-inch ballot, not a 19-inch ballot. So everything was off. It couldn't read any of those ballots. That was on purpose. They never got to the bottom of how that happened and why nothing happened in that election should have been overturned in Trump's favor in 2020. But they couldn't allow that, right? Because Biden had to get in. He had to open up the border. That was the whole plan. Mamdani to meet with hand-picked Jewish leaders to discuss concerns, but critics fume it's nothing more than a photo. That's all that was. He didn't meet with real Jewish leaders and all different groups of Jews. He met with a specific one group of Jews that were friendly to him that he could manipulate and not get called out for what he's doing. That's the problem. New York City spent roughly $81,000 per person on homeless services last year. That's an insane amount of money that we're spending while we still have people in the street, sleeping in subways, and many of whom are violent, unfortunately. So friends, are going to take this break real quick. I'm running out of coffee, and I desperately need help. So I'm hoping this is recording properly. I hope I'm doing well. I appreciate you. My name is Ash. This is my website, where I've been doing these shows since 2020, where we started as We Are the News, and then we changed to Nonprofit News Pundit to highlight the fact that I do these shows for free for the whole time, 6+ years of free news punditry shows where I have not made 1 cent from doing this show, and I'm proud to say that. I'm proud to say I've never enriched myself, not even 1 cent. I've never sold you any coin. I've never sold you any bullshit. I've never tried to sell you any product. I may have backed certain products that I myself use, but I don't gain any monetary advantage by doing that. I'm just telling you about a product I like that maybe you want to try, maybe you don't. I don't make any money, though, if you do or don't. It doesn't matter. So I appreciate you. I hope you're well. I hope you've been trying to stay in your center and work out as much as possible and keep your body strong and your mind strong. There's a group of people that all they're striving to do is keep you in a state of disarray, to not be in harmony, to be in anger, to be in fear, to be in a state of flux, to be in a state of lack where you don't have what you need, where you're always worrying about the next day, or how am I going to pay this bill, or how am I going to get by, how am I going to survive, how am I going to, right? And instead, while you're worrying about all that shit, they're putting in their plan, right? They're putting in the New World Order plan right in front of your face. They're making the data centers right now. We still have a chance, though, because we don't have to choose to live in their world, right? We can all shut off Facebook tomorrow and end these people. We could all shut our computers down for a week and end these people, right? Where Amazon's going to be saying, where's all the orders? They're gone, bro. People decided to tell you to go fuck themselves, you and Amazon. And they're not going to use your products anymore. They're going to go make smaller communities. They're going to start bartering. They're going to start doing little town fairs and local area things where we meet every week and we trade food and we do barter and different things, right? We don't need Amazon. We don't need Facebook. We don't need Instagram and all these sites. They need us. So once we realize that, we can exert control and power over these people and force them to stop manipulating us. So I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. I'm going to go get this coffee. I'll be right back in one moment. In the meantime, you can do some push-ups, sit-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, I'm back. Thanks, friends. I appreciate that break. Thank you for that. So we got Epstein hanging with the U.S. ambassador in a bathrobe in Martha's Vineyard. What's going on here, right? And he's with Prince Andrew, who is now just Andrew Mountbatten. So I just checked. Silver's down about $3. They're continuing to put the pressure on it. They want you to dump your physical silver. That's the other thing they really want you to do. I'm not dumping my physical silver. I don't care if it goes all the way back down to $30. I'm still up. I'd be pissed if it went all the way back down there. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that this is being done to root out the people who are... Well, it's being done for two reasons. I don't think it's rooting out anything. I think it's keeping silver cheap because the global mechanism wants it cheap, right? They want it cheap because so they could buy it cheap. Countries can keep buying it at a cheaper price. They don't want silver at $100 an ounce. It costs way too much money for them to make solar panels in their stupid electric vehicles and all this other crap, and weapons, right? It costs a lot more to make weapons. All these missiles and all these things have silver in them, right? New York is spending an insane amount of money, not just on homeless people, but on illegal aliens that we should be spending $0 on, right? We shouldn't be putting illegal aliens up in hotels that cost $150 to $250 a night. No. Who's raking in the profit from that? Well, the Roosevelt Hotel, which is attached to the country of Pakistan, they're one of the people that's making the money. Why is the Pakistani government... How come the Pakistani government owns a hotel in New York City? Did you ever wonder why that is? Who allowed that to go through? And then gave that hotel a huge amount of guaranteed people staying at their hotel whose money would be guaranteed to be paid by the city of New York's taxpayers. That is a crime that will go down in history as one of the biggest crime boondoggles ever, that people were robbed right in their freaking face and nobody said or did anything about it. And the politicians kept fighting against ICE, who was trying to remove those same people who shouldn't have been here. History is going to look upon these people with it's going to be extremely harsh on these people. People are going to wonder, how could these politicians stay in power so long when they kept ripping off the American public over and over again? Well, because they control the voting system and they cheat. If you don't have a proper voting system, you could have crooks stay in power for 30 years like Chuck Schumer did. You can have a crook like Chuck Schumer stay in power for over 30 years. That's why term limits should be a necessity. Term limits should have been put into law a long time ago, but they never did because they don't want these guys to have term limits. They want them in power for 30 years, like Chuck Schumer and others, so they can affect a whole generation. Trump stunned by lurid rumor about Iran's new gay Ayatollah. Why, you don't think Arab men are gay too? There's plenty of gay men that are Arabs and Muslims all over the world. Some countries you gotta hide that or they'll kill you, right? They'll throw your ass off a fucking roof. In some countries. Reports claim Mojtaba Khomeini is in low condition, said to be dull-witted. Well, that means he's stupid. That's not somebody you want leading your country to be dumb, right, or stupid. You want somebody who's highly intelligent to be your leader. You want somebody who's cunning, who's smart, who knows how to lead men. Is this guy the one? Probably not. Have they degraded their leadership down to the point where there's really not many people left to lead the thing? Yeah, that's what it's looking like to me. You're at the bottom of the barrel, which means that you're getting to the people that have less and less military experience to the point where they're not going to know what to do anymore. I have a superior force hitting me. I'm fighting a multi-front war now because they're lucky that Dubai and some of these other countries don't start to bomb them back, because if they do, then we'd have a wider regional conflict. Illegal aliens from Africa, India, and China are voting in U.S. elections. Here's how they're doing it. We know how they're doing it already. They're giving them driver's licenses and they're putting them into states where they don't check too hard on anyone that votes. Like every time I voted, I've never had to show any ID. I just point to my name in the book where it is and I sign my signature. And they match that to the signature that was there before. So if you've been using the same person's name illegally for years, you just keep using the same person's name illegally for years. If you were doing that. Not that I'm doing that, obviously, but some people are. And yeah, you know how to sign their name after a while because you train how to do it. It's not that hard. There's all kinds of illegal aliens that are here getting driver's licenses that should have never been here. Should have never been allowed to come. A lot of them are on Canal Street selling you illegal watches and illegal purses. That's what I just called into one of the local guys that's his district. And I said, what? I said, by the way, you're supposed to support ICE if they're ever working in your jurisdiction. Your job is to do everything in your power to support ICE. Not to stop ICE. Not to make it so it's harder for them to do their job. If they ask you to hold somebody, then you hold them. You don't let them go out the back of the courthouse, which is what they're doing in New York. It's insane. It's beyond insane. It's traitorous. Anti-Israel activist who called Jews cockroaches has multiple links to Zohar Mamdani's family, despite attempts to distance themselves. So these people are bigots. That's what they are, right? They like to group a whole group of people and say that they're all this one thing, right? Which is a stereotype, which is some people would say bigoted or racist, right? If you say all of this group is this thing, right? All Jews are cheap, right? All this type of people only like this one food all the time and they eat that, right? Whatever it is, right? All Irish are drunkards and like to drink alcohol, right? Which is a lie. I could go on. There's different tropes for each group. These are ethnic things that are made up over time, right? These are racist tropes. These are bigoted things that people make up about certain groups of people to try to make it that they're all the same in one group, right? They all do the same thing. They all eat the same food. They all talk the same way. They all act the same. They all vote the same way. No, that's not true. Each group is filled with individuals within the group, right, who act and do different things. There's been amazing people from these groups that have done amazing things to help this country, not just hurt it. But I could also point to those different groups and say, hey, there's criminal elements in each of those groups that have also hurt the country, right? But that's equal to all the groups. Every group has it. Every religious group has it. Right? It's yin yang. It's good and bad in all things. It's a dualistic world. There can't be evil without good. There can't be good without evil, because you're living in a third density dualistic world. That's the way it's set up. It doesn't mean it has to be. And every other density, that might not be the case. There might be higher densities where there is no evil, because it can't exist in that density. It's too pure. Where only good can exist, where only love can exist, right? If you've ever been fully in love with somebody, you'll understand. Right? That person is like, you can never say anything wrong against them or see them as only good as good, right? If you're totally in love with someone, yeah. They can never do any wrong in your eyes. Isn't it funny how that can change so drastically over time? Iran's supreme leader says the U.S. and Israel must be brought to their knees and accept defeat before any peace deal can be agreed. Tehran claims, with new Ayatollahs still yet to be seen. So it's like both sides are saying the same thing, right? Trump's side saying, hey, you got to unconditionally surrender, and then we'll talk about it. And then the other side saying, no, you're going to surrender. Is Iran going to be able to bring the U.S. to its knees? Who else is helping Iran in this that you could see? Maybe Russia and maybe China behind the scenes. Doesn't appear China's helping. Russia's got its own problems. Ex-Air Force officer claims UFOs shut down 20 U.S. nuclear missiles in just 8 days. I heard that all the U.S. missiles, all the U.S. nukes are shut down by aliens long ago so that we don't have a nuclear incident and kill ourselves. We're going to be allowed to ascend on our own this time without being bothered, without something coming. Because I think humanity's gotten to this point before where our collective consciousness has realized certain things that are true about us, and there was always that group that was like, we can't let these people really understand who they really are and what they really were, because if we do, they're too powerful. We won't be able to control them anymore. I think we were at one time multidimensional. I think at one time we were much more powerful than we are now in our current incantation. Something's been like a limiter has been put on us where not only has your third eye been decalcified, but other possible abilities that are endemic in the human species might not be as available as they were before, before our genome was changed somehow by, I'm assuming, extraterrestrials. Nevada sheriff defies judge to keep 35 arrest violent offender behind bars. This guy had 35 arrests and they wanted to let him out again. Same old story. This one sheriff said, I'm not doing that. My job is to protect the people of my jurisdiction. I'm not doing that if I let somebody that's been arrested 35 times out of jail. Just like Alvin Bragg in New York should be removed from power because he's allowing known criminals to get out of jail with no bail. Judge blocks Kennedy's changes to vaccine schedule on CDC committee. They don't want to allow people to have less vaccines. They want you to have more, right? More. I'm convinced that something in these vaccines is making people get worse, changing your DNA somehow. Antifa members threaten wife of judge in Prairieland ICE facility case, vow retaliation for convicted militants. Judge Mark Pittman's wife wrote in the wake of Kirk's killing, keep spreading the good news, Bishop. The world needs it more than ever. Come, Lord Jesus, come. So you're seeing Antifa members are threatening officials, threatening judges. Joe Kent resigns from the National Counterterrorism Center over the Iran war. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. The rumor was that this person who is right under what's her name? Tulsi Gabbard was about to be removed anyway, so I'm not sure about that. Is it a big deal or not? Israel. Iran security head Larijani and Basij commander Soleimani are both dead. So they've been just decimating these people's hierarchy, right? I mean, maybe you shouldn't say who your new leader is and just start doing shit underground because you're getting decimated. January 6th, pipe bomb suspect says Trump's pardon should apply to him. So they got the pipe bomber? It's this black dude? That's what they're saying? Somehow I don't think they got the right guy. And why did it take so long to catch this dude? Didn't you follow him home with the cameras and couldn't you figure out who he was? You must have been able to figure out who he was before this somehow. Pam Bondi subpoenaed over possible mismanagement of Jeffrey Epstein probe. You think? There's millions and millions of documents you never released after you said you released it all. So there's obviously was millions more that you didn't know about, or that you did know about and you weren't planning on releasing. Mamdani rips Palestinian genocide at St. Patrick's Day event. I mean, this guy can't just talk about the Irish for a day. It's their day. This isn't Palestinian Day. This isn't Muslim Day. This is St. Patrick's Day. It's about the Irish. It's about their day. And this guy can't even take 2 minutes to talk about the Irish and their many contributions to this nation. Who do you think built the railroads? It wasn't just the Chinese. It was the Irish too. Who do you think built a lot of the infrastructure up? It was the Irish. Did both those groups also have criminal elements that rose up? Yeah. Go look into the Chinese tongues. Go look into who were the earliest gangs in New York were Irish gangs that took over because they were being used as a political tool by the current government to force people to vote one way for the Boss Tweed party. And people who were Boss Tweed associated politicians at the time. And that went on for quite some time. Where not only was the whole of the city was controlled by illicit gangs, but all the way up to the mayor was controlled, and the entire police force became completely Irish at one point, where it was completely controlled and doing illegal activities. Celebrations break out across Iran over death of security chief Ali Larijani. Burn, people are saying, burn. Will Iran fall? It's looking like they don't have much leadership left. Ecuador destroys 129 illegal mining camps in protected park near Peru. So you're seeing with it's illegal gold mining, right? So gold is becoming so expensive that people are starting to try to illegally mine all over the place where there is gold. That's happened before, where silver was found very close to the surface in one country and people just started showing up and digging in the ground trying to get gold, silver out, you know. They created a massive hole after a while. When you got 100 guys digging a hole all day, every day, and more dudes showing up every day, the hole gets deeper real quick and started to become super dangerous, right? When you're just digging a big hole like that with no bracing of the side walls of it and could cave in. Senate advances the SAVE Act, so is it going to go to the Congress now? Where it probably will die, I'm assuming. Because the Democrats can't have it where you have to show a real ID like a passport, because most illegal aliens can't get that particular piece of... That document is the hardest to get and the hardest to fake, and it's the hardest to get if you're an illegal alien because you don't have the right documents. And it's expensive to get. I think it'll cost over $300 to get the passport now, or more. So that's out of reach of a lot of illegal aliens who are here and they don't have any money, which means you're going to have to somehow get them a passport cheaper, which, how do you do it? Trans youth advocate for homeless teens charged with raping infant in Washington State. Isabel Izzy Kelso Flournoy IV, born as William, 25, of Tacoma, is being held in jail on $1 million bail. What a piece of shit. Let's hope he gets some jailhouse justice. Disney head Bob Iger is stepping down. So that's a big deal. The head of Disney, Iger's been there forever. Long time. He's going to advise new CEO Josh D'Amaro. He will hand over leadership of the company to Josh D'Amaro. So Disney's in serious trouble. Serious trouble. Mamdani hijacked St. Patrick's Day breakfast to rant about genocide in Gaza. Double confirmation. You know, people don't like this. This is like what they call political pandering. All this guy's going to talk about is Palestine and, you know, this isn't, there's other issues to talk about. The mayor has to deal with a wide variety of religions and people and backgrounds and opinions that don't always agree with his own or her own. Being the mayor is a very difficult position because you have to deal with all different kinds of people of differing religious beliefs and differing political beliefs as well. And you have to be able to bridge the gaps between those people. And this guy doesn't show that he's the type that can do that so far. He doesn't have that side of him that is open to different people, right? Different groups don't feel that he's treating them the same way. CIA is accused of poisoning the sky with toxins as files expose secret weather control agenda. Why has no one been arrested, right? I mean, we've known about the contrails, we've known about the chemtrails. I've been talking about it since like 2014. 2013, I started seeing a lot more of the chemtrails over the New York skies. And like I said, I've lived in New York all my life. I'd never seen chemtrailing like that before. And there was friends of mine said, "Oh yeah, there used to be those." I said, "Where? I don't remember seeing those in the sky all the time." I don't know what sky you were looking at. I don't remember seeing planes belching out these straight lines that then spread out and covered the whole sky. I don't remember seeing that. I remember the clouds being puffy and round and big like cumulus clouds. I remember the sky being clear and the sun being yellow back then. Now the sun is white. What do you see the sun as where you are? Do you see a white sun or do you see a yellow sun? I see a white sun. If you're seeing the sun as yellow, I don't know where you are right now. You might be in another 3D timeline. Not sure. Because I do know we split into a bunch of different ones when they started to mess around with time travel, I think is what happened. But I think there's certain dates and times that they coalesce back together, and those are sort of what happens. Those timelines end up fraying off and dying after a time. Netanyahu releases video to prove he's alive after Iranian media claimed he'd been killed. Right, so there'd been a bunch of videos came out of Netanyahu that didn't appear that it was him. The fingers would disappear, his teeth were vanishing. Some of those AI videos, they don't look quite right. I can see a lot of these AI stuff that I see that I think is AI out there right now that's not labeled as such. And that's the problem. Where's Bibi holding that day's Jerusalem Post? That's how you do proof of life, right? He should be holding the March 20th version of the Jerusalem Post. Show it to the camera. Standing somewhere outside. Or inside, whatever. But with that newspaper, that's harder to fake, right? The day of. AI couldn't do that because it would have to first know what the day's paper was and the headline, and if you were, that would be harder to do. Suspects in brutal anti-Semitic attack on Israeli-American diners shared chilling clips with assault rifles. So these guys heard two guys speaking Hebrew somewhere and decided, hey, let's go attack these guys. And the three of them jumped this one guy and beat him up. And they're not going to be charged with a hate crime, which is interesting because the whole thing started allegedly because you heard this guy speaking Hebrew, and just because of that, you decided to attack him. There wasn't anything else that happened. There wasn't an exchange of words or anything that we know of. Iranian police commander pleads with Israeli agent, please come help us, in dramatic leak call. There's no help for you. You got to get rid of the people running your country first. You've been causing a lot of problems all over the world, man. You killed a lot of people. That's why Obama gave these people all that money. They were going to fuel the Muslim, the Al Qaeda and all those groups all over the world. That's what that's been fueling all these years. Excuse me. U.S. drops a 5,000-pound bunker buster bomb on underground missile site near the Strait of Hormuz. California plots return of 7.5 million acres of land in coastal waters to indigenous tribes. That's a lot of land. That's going to be interesting. What happens to people that maybe own houses or blocks of land on that on those parcels? What's going to happen? Is the government going to have to make right by those people, right? Somebody's going to have to make right by those people. They can't just be expected to give up their land back to the tribe. Unless they choose to and are given some kind of tax break maybe. And some other piece of land somewhere else. I don't know. Robot goes berserk at a restaurant in California as desperate staff try to drag it away from customers. As one viewer asked, why isn't there a big red power off button? Yeah, shut them all down, I wrote. Before it's too late, you can't. We don't need these things that bad. I'm not a fan of it. Japanese games and manga used in White House airstrike videos. That's why it looks like some of these videos, it doesn't look like it's a normal like camera. Why is the satellite footage of it so grainy and like black and white? It's like an off. It just looks weird. You're not showing the actual thing blow up. Are they using like Manga? That's how it looks, like this. Yeah, it looks like fake. It looks fake. A video posted by the White House featuring a graphic from Nintendo's Wii Sports video game. The White House house's X account. So the White House is posting stuff that's from like Nintendo Wii and saying it's war footage, which means you're lying to the public, right? Why is the White House posting videos on X showing U.S. Israeli forces' ongoing military operations against Iran that feature elements from Nintendo's Wii Sports video game and popular manga series Yu-Gi-Oh! The videos have been criticized for making light of deadly attacks. So are these even real? You don't know, right? These could just be like wag the dog type stuff. We know it. They're easily capable of doing that. They show us how they can do it. Remember that video of a guy running and then they're like, look, we can put flames in the buildings and we can make like bomb sounds now. Now it looks like the guy's running through a fucking complete war zone and it's going all crazy and shit, right? In fact, he's just running through an area. There's nothing happening. Are you using Manga and like AI to try to fake this war and it's not really a war happening at all? Could that be possible? Is it really... Is it a lie that 50 to 60,000 people are dead? Well, we saw the body bags. It appeared to be real. There's people telling us from inside the country that it is. So something's obviously going on. Fear as 700 Iran Guard agents reportedly entered Canada. Is there anybody that can confirm that? It's the same thing with like the Chinese troops on the island when that video came out. And they're like, no, that's just a training exercise. Really? It's like a whole platoon of Chinese troops like jogging around on this island in Canada. What are they doing here? Why are they training on our island for? What the hell? They can go run in their country. Did Iran National Guard or did Iran Guard enter Canada? No, we don't know. We kept hearing rumors that there was Chinese troops in Canada before, but we never got any verification that that was true in the end, right? U.S. intel hid Chinese 2020 election meddling from Trump because they opposed his policies. Memo says that Dr. Barry El-Zalaf, a member of the Senior National Intelligence Service, reported that others in the intelligence community said, quote, I don't want my intelligence going to the White House where it will be used by that vulgarian in the Oval Office to support policies against China with which I personally disagree. Is that true? You say you didn't share all the information? But that's your job. Your job isn't to pick who you share it to, which administration you share it with. Your job is to share all the information with any administration that's there. If you don't want to do that, then quit your fucking job. We don't care about your personal policies and what you think about China or don't. It doesn't matter. And the fact that people are now saying that they held back information from the president about what was really going on is a problem, right? The Mamdani family's intelligence connection. This is from a website I was looking for because there was talk that was on one website I was watching that Mamdani's father may have worked or been an asset of the CIA at one point. Mamdani's anthropologist father received grant money from the CIA-linked Ford Foundation. His mother's charity received money from the State Department's USAID. His wife has worked for establishment media and corporations. Yeah, these people could easily, some of them could be CIA. No question. How JFK and the CIA gave New York City's Zoran Mamdani and Obama to the U.S. There's another article you could check out about Mamdani and his connections possibly to CIA or other. Ilhan Omar claims Trump wants to sleep with his daughter and calls his supporters stupid and crazy rant. Well, you've seen a lot of photos with Trump and the young Ivanka where she's sitting on his lap all the time. He's constantly got his hands on her. To me, something always looked a little bit wrong about that. Tell me to my face, Republican Senator tortures Noam's replacement as their vicious personal feud spills into public. This guy had apparently said it was that he was okay with or that he was all for that, Paul being attacked by that man when he broke his ribs and that he deserved to be attacked. So Paul was saying, if that really is what you said, then say it to my face then. Is that why, if that's how you really feel? Because now's the chance for you to get it out. I'm sitting here in front of you. That was a pretty telling statement. Ilhan Omar is in deep trouble, right? She's possibly connected to this thing. And now Nick Shirley's in Los Angeles and parts of California, where what appears to be the modus operandi there is they opening up not just these daycare centers there, but they'll buy a whole hotel, like a whole motel complex, like the type where you drive in and there's, like a two-tiered hotel, bunch of rooms, and take that all over and make it into like a commercial space building where they have all these illicit rooms where these different companies supposedly exist, but some of the rooms are just empty offices or empty rooms with no office in it, with nothing inside. And they're all different hospices and they're all getting money. So it's another scam where these guys buy out a whole motel and repurpose it and make it into a bunch of hospice companies that allegedly only deal with hospital referrals, but they're running them out of this like little rooms, like little hotel room in a motel somewhere on the side of the road. Same thing with some of these daycare centers where the kids are, maybe 8 kids in a hotel room somewhere, right? It's just completely illegal. No services, no bathrooms, not a proper daycare center at all. This is all illicit stuff. And it's, again, all run with a bunch of Somalis, it looks like, doing some of it. And now they know who Nick Shirley is, and now they're scared of him because he keeps showing up at these places. And they're all connected. They're like, oh, we knew you were here. We heard you were around. Yeah, because these places are all connected. There's like one angel services and this service and that. Female pastor is suspended after a shocking Epstein link is exposed as she compares herself to Jesus while defending their relationship. Why were you so close to Epstein? He's Jewish. Why is a female pastor so close to Epstein when he's Jewish? Who knows, right? Maybe there's pastors that like young kids, right? Some of them. Why do so many of these religions end up hurting kids? Right? Some of those Jews also were messing around. It looked like with kids in the shul where they were digging into the walls. Remember? And they found the mattresses that were all stained, that were underground in this secret area back there that no one knew existed. Where somebody was going back there and doing stuff. They found like high chairs for babies back there. Remember that? That all got pushed under the rug. That never got dealt with. They never really found out what was really going on down there. Why is there such a high instances in some of these religious Jewish schools where their children are getting, like, there's almost a 30 to 50% pedophile rate in some of these places where the kids are getting hurt that much, and it's all kept under the rug because they don't file police reports about it for the most part. Now we're seeing female pastors and female teachers like crazy, right? That are being arrested for being pedophiles, for raping young boys and girls. And they're women, right? They're not men, they're women. Women pedophiles. More than I ever thought were possible. Robert Kennedy Jr.'s HHS is appealing judge's ruling on national childhood vaccine policy. The Department of Health and Human Services plans to appeal a judge's temporary injunction to change the national childhood vaccine policy. They're trying to make it less shots, and I agree with that. There should be way less shots. Man urges New Yorkers to stand up for their city, confronts drug addicts openly using in a subway. So I'm not going to put this video on because he uses a lot of colorful language, but it's an African-American gentleman who is in the subway station, and these guys are openly smoking crack, it looks like, in the station, and they're taking up seats that should be for the public instead of, and they're using drugs right there in the open in the middle of the day. And he said, you guys better clean this up. It's in the morning. If I come back here and you're here, I'm going to fuck everybody up who's here. Guaranteed. My word, he said, right? And he's saying, what is wrong with you in New York? You got to stand up and start taking your city back from these people, or else they're going to take it away from you. And there'll be a fucking shawarma cart every other block, just like they wanted. There's going to be Muslims all over praying in the streets and shit. I'm not having that. Not in my city. Here's the 40-minute Nick Shirley video on California hospice and other fraud. We all work way too hard and pay too much taxes for this to be happening. These fraudsters have been able to defraud American taxpayers for years without any pushback from the public and politicians. I didn't write this. This is Nick Shirley's site. It's time to expose it all and end America's fraud. I posted the link, x.com, Nick Shirley, on his X. You can go check it out. He just released the 40 minutes of him going through California, finding all the same, even worse. And they're doing it by taking over like a hotel that goes out of business, like one of those motels, and they just make it into offices. Where's the California State Department of, I don't know what department it would be, but that oversees stuff like this, that has to investigate each company and make sure that they're a proper company. Somebody's not doing their job, obviously, right? If these kinds of offices can exist in a rundown motel and say that there's some big company, right, when they're really not. And especially if they're trying to do daycare for children, they should not be allowed to use a hotel room. James O'Keefe undercover in L.A. posing as homeless, exposing payment for his signatures. So you got O'Keefe pretending he's some junkie, and they're showing that people are paying these guys for their signatures to, hey, I'll give you $5 if you sign this thing. Of course I'll sign it if I'm a junkie. If I can get my next fix for $3 to $5 and I need that fix, I'm going to sign whatever you tell me to sign. I don't give a shit. Keir Starmer just got annihilated by Andrew Snowden in Parliament. And still he refused to answer the question about Peter Mandelson's relationship with convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, why is Mandelson hanging around in his underwear with Epstein? What possible reason could he have for doing that? Except if they're very comfortable with each other and doing some sexual stuff together, right? That's what it looks like to me. Head of the left, Cesar Chavez, was exposed as a monster as girls make horrific abuse allegations. Yeah, so this guy who's the darling of the left is now is a pedophile rapist. Now Newsom and all these leftists have to come out and say, oh, well, we didn't know, sorry. He was living in California doing it too. He had a big mansion in California where he was raping these women, apparently. He's doing it in your state, Newsom. Outrage as giant Islamic crescent moon erected atop Arizona mountain to commemorate Ramadan has been destroyed. Well, maybe people don't want that there. They don't want a big Islamic crescent moon over an American city. They don't want any big... Why? There's no cross up there. There's no Jewish star up there. Why do you get to have a crescent moon up there then? That represents your religion. Why is your religion so much more special than in any other religion? If you want to have your crescent moon up there, then put a Jewish star up there, and a Buddhist thing, and a Zoroastrian thing, and a Greek Orthodox thing, and put it all up there then. Why does your religion get special treatment somehow? I don't get it. And how many Muslims actually live in the state of Arizona anyway? Is it that big of an amount? That all this stuff is being done for this religion? Why? Oil spikes after Iran says world's largest gas fields hit and strikes. Vows to attack Gulf oil production in retaliation. So I wrote, who was buying oil futures before this started? That's the people you want to look for. Who was buying long-term oil futures to go up? About before this happened. Mysterious three-sided pyramid on Mars fuels speculation about advanced alien civilizations. I said, yeah, what about the mantid species you're saying is living there? See Starship Troopers? Go watch Starship Troopers, dude. They're fighting these huge spider creatures that are ripping people apart, right? Some people say that Starship Troopers was one of the major... It came out in 1997. I thought it came out in the 80s, but it's based on a 1959 novel by Robert A. Heinlein, who's a great writer. If you've never read Robert Heinlein stuff, great stuff. He's written a bunch of famous books. What was the other much more famous one he wrote? I can't remember now. But there was these arachnid creatures, right, that were huge. That were like ripping the guys apart, and they're super fast and agile and super powerful. So, I don't know. Do those exist? Maybe. Senator Joni Ernst reveals $77 billion in secret defense spending kept from taxpayers. There you go. That's black bag projects right there. Show us then. What was it? Was that the anti-gravitic craft or whatever? Where's all this money been going all these years? Why did the Pentagon, right before 9/11, say they lost, I don't know, $2 trillion, or was it 1.2 trillion? I forgot. They couldn't account for 1.2 trillion, right? Remember the Rumsfeld speech, September 10th, and then boom, September 11th happens, and nobody remembered that anymore, right? Nobody cared about the money that was missing. It wasn't a big deal. Jailed Trump ally Tina Peters found not guilty of assault in caught-on-camera prison fight. So somebody was assaulting Tina Peters in jail. She doesn't seem like the type that would start a fight. Orthodox Jewish leaders are ripped for going easy on Israel, bashing New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Easily bought. Children of Iran's regime leaders are educating America's students in colleges from New York to LA. So there's a whole bunch of these people. All these teachers are Muslim, and it's a problem, right? Maybe some of them shouldn't be here. Here's Layla Khatami, a professor of mathematics at Union College in upstate New York. Are you just doing your job, or are you also talking negative about the United States? Because some of these people have been shown to be negative, talking bad about the United States. Look at Linda Sarsour. She's done a lot of damage. If I was in charge of this country, I would deport Linda Sarsour as fast as I could. Is Islam the one true faith? So was this the video? I don't know if this was the one I was watching where the guy's talking about, or is this something else? Let's check this out.
I will leave Islam if any Christian can answer these 4 questions about it.
Okay, so this guy says he'll leave Islam if any Christian can answer these 4 questions. So let's let this play out. Here's a guy that seems like he's pretty well versed in his Quran and different things. So let's see what happens here. I will leave Islam if anyone can answer these questions, he says.
100% serious. I say this because I know you cannot answer the question.
All right, I'm a Christian. Let's hear it.
Let's dive right in.
How would the Quran have known embryology?
Well, it doesn't. The Quran actually gets embryology very wrong. We see this in Quran chapter 23 verse 14, which says that the bones of a fetus in the womb form before the flesh and muscle. However, modern medicine tells us that that is completely wrong because muscles and bones form alongside each other.
Number 2, the Quran explains how salt and fresh water don't mix.
Which is wrong because salt water and fresh water can mix.
And it explains how the sun and moon have 2 separate orbits.
Yeah, but Greek scientist Hipparchus said that in 200 BCE, over 700 years before Muhammad was ever even born. Also, the sun doesn't orbit the earth, it's the other way around. You know that, right?
Number 3, the Quran also explains the Big Bang Theory, how clouds form, and how iron comes from space.
Okay, so the Quran never talks about the Big Bang. He just lied about that. But it does talk about how clouds are formed. It just gets it completely wrong by saying Allah gently drives them together. He also claimed that the Quran talks about iron coming from space, and this is the verse he's talking about, and it says nothing about that.
Question number 4, Muhammad, peace be upon him, did not write the Quran. So if we have all these miracles, all this crazy stuff that no modern scientist didn't even find out until the last couple hundred years, you're saying that either Muhammad was the smartest man who's ever lived, or God wrote the Quran. What I think is God wrote the Quran. So what I want to know from you is, did God write the Quran?
No, Satan wrote the Quran, and the Quran itself even admits to that when it says that Satan threw in misunderstanding to Muhammad's teachings. God bless, and Allahu Akbar!
I will leave Islam if any Christian can answer.
So there it is. Satan wrote the Quran. According to that passage, if you believe it, it's up to you. And that's just one video I found. That's not. There's another guy who's Jewish who goes through Quran passages and reads them back to different people who he's talking, different Muslims who he's talking to on, like, you know, Zoom calls, and they're all like want to kill him and they hate his guts. But then when he reads them the passage, they're like, oh, well, and they don't have anything to say because it's right there in your teachings, dude. New York City's First Lady Rama Douaji celebrated Palestinian terrorists and resurfaced social media posts. So these people made the classic mistake of going to public office and not going to, like, he didn't erase all his old rap videos where he looks like a complete idiot, right? Trying to rap and with his shirt off. This is your mayor now. This is who's running the whole, one of the biggest cities in the country. This idiot. FBI and IRS to investigate NGOs for ties to domestic terrorism. Antifa. The initiative will create a mission control command center based at the FBI where agents from IRS criminal investigations will work on one-year assignments. James Carville predicts Trump will resign next year after midterms sooner than you think. The fake Trump I wrote needs to be removed sooner. This can't keep going on where there's still the silver-haired Trump once in a while and then you see mostly it's the orange-haired Trump. I don't understand why nobody's talking about it. None of these pundits seem to know, or who were talking about Trump is hiding in the mountain. They don't even mention that lie anymore. They're just trying to say some other lie now. That, yeah, he's somewhere. He's in Greenland Base. He's in Patuxent Air Force Base. California Governor Newsom says he's still processing Cesar Chavez news and urges reflection. Yeah, sure. You probably knew all along what he was doing. Hegseth defends $200 billion funding request in Iran war update. So Hegseth wants $250 billion, almost, just in weapons for himself, right? Plus, that's not for the rest of the four. Is that for all the armed services combined? Woke wife of New York City socialist mayor accused of using the N-word and sharing yet more posts of it celebrating Palestinian terrorism. So she shared terrorist posts. She shared posts from people who were doing violence upon other people. She used the N-word. It's not looking good for this guy. How are you going to get reelected with this kind of shit floating around? Plus what you're trying to do with the tax stuff, it looks like you're crashing and burning real quick. Trump stuns the Japanese Prime Minister with Pearl Harbor comment directly to her face. Yeah. You heard the guy saying, the Japanese guy asking Trump, why didn't you let Japan know about the attack on Iran? He said, well, you know, speaking of surprise attacks, you guys are pretty good with those, aren't you? Remember when you did a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor? Where the Japanese Prime Minister is sitting there like, oh shit, did you just say that? Did you just go there? That was pretty cool, I gotta admit. You gotta like that. Of course, there was a lot of people that talk about the fact that the U.S. knew that Japan was going to attack. It was actually let them do it. If that ends up being true, that's going to be a lot of upset people, right? Especially who have loved ones on the U.S.S. Arizona and other ships that got sunk, right? FBI shuts down Iran-linked hacker groups' websites. Comey subpoenaed in DOJ's Trump conspiracy investigation. So Comey's going to be coming back on the stand to testify soon. Costa Rica cuts ties with Cuba, rejects government's legitimacy. So that's one country that's doesn't even accept Cuba as a country. Florida man goes viral for crazy likeness. I'm not Jeffrey Epstein, I'm Palm Beach Pete. Don't get it twisted. I'm freaking Palm Beach Pete, dude. Don't get it twisted. Alright? He kind of does look like Epstein, though, right? It's hard to tell with the shades, but the profile he sort of does, right? With the gray hair and stuff. The chin's wrong. The nose is wrong, I think. That's Palm Beach Pete. Don't get it twisted, alright? Yeah, here he doesn't look like Epstein. You could see him from the front, he doesn't. He's Palm Beach Pete, alright?
Hey everybody, this is Palm Beach Pete, and my video went viral because some dude randomly filmed me while I was driving on I-95, unbeknownst to me, and the next thing I know, I'm a viral sensation. I had my phone down for about 4 hours, and I didn't know my phone was blowing up with all these comments from that video.
All his friends are like, yo, dude. You didn't tell me you were Epstein. I thought you were Pete this whole time. U.S. territory turned tropical maternity ward has produced thousands of American babies for parents living in China. Here's another baby shop that's outside the U.S. but in a U.S. territory where they're doing the same thing. We talked about the baby hotels, the Chinese baby hotels that operate in places like California, New York, other spots. This is women are pumping babies out of the Mariana Islands, Northern Marianas, right, which are under the U.S. territory, which is northeast of Guam in the Pacific Ocean. So they're just coming in there, they're having the baby. They don't even have to hit the U.S. mainland to do it now and have all that and risk getting caught there. This is all because people are bribing and being paid to look the other way. Ghislaine Maxwell's $2.4 million New Hampshire hideout finally snags a buyer after nearly a year on the market. So who was paying for that house that all the time that it was that she's been in jail? Who's paying for the taxes and the payments for that house, I wonder? Interesting. $2.4 million the house just sold for. I wonder who bought it. Probably won't tell us. The buyer will probably remain anonymous, but it's a public record. It might be able to be. You can possibly find out unless it's been somehow redacted. New York City First Lady Rama Duwaji deletes her old X account after posts praising Palestinian terrorists resurface. I wrote, whoops, don't use the N-word. You're not African American. Don't use slanderous words like that if it's not your race. And even if it is, I just think it's stupid to denigrate yourself that way. I know that they use it in a different form. It's got an A on the end. It's not the same. They don't consider it the same. I get it, but it's still a negative. It's a slur that I don't particularly like hearing. And, you want to keep using it, go ahead, but I don't think other people should be allowed to use it like her. Trump is considering ordering U.S. troops to seize or blockade Iran's Karg Island, but risks irrevocable damage to global economy, as Netanyahu also hints at putting boots on the ground. This guy has no idea what to do, I don't think, in Iran, I wrote right now. He's in trouble, right? He doesn't know. It's not stopping. He hasn't got rid of the the Iranian regime, and it doesn't look like they're going anywhere soon. Wife of New York City socialist mayor shuts down her X account. Oh, that's a double confirmation. Triple. They're both bigots in my view, I wrote. Her and her husband, to me, appear to be bigots. They definitely don't like Jews. That's obvious. And they don't particularly like African Americans either if his wife is using that word. Trump rages against Israel's Netanyahu for striking Iran's oil field, sending gas prices skyrocketing. I told him not to do that. That's golden hair, Trump, but that just shows you that Netanyahu doesn't listen to you. Netanyahu doesn't listen to you. So that's what I got for you guys so far. We're in a precarious situation. It doesn't appear to me that we're anywhere closer to gaining our freedom. It doesn't appear that Trump is going to give us the med beds. It doesn't appear that he's going to implement any kind of free energy. I mean, he seems to be doubling and tripling down on oil, coal, and nuclear. I don't see who are the good guys in this right now in this country. Is there only way that America is going to free itself from these people is in a civil war type of thing? Because like I said years ago, how do you live with some of these people when they're with some of these Karens and these people whose political ideology is so far afield of the norm and so far off from what the average American citizen is thinking that they can't live and assimilate into our society anymore. They've been so highly propagandized. Some of them their whole lives have grown up in this system of horrifically controlled news where it's the CIA is feeding you your news. And people are believing CNN and all these channels that they've grown up watching that have been propagandizing them their whole lives. And then on top of that, you grow up in a family that has been Democrat their whole lives, and that's all they've ever voted for. And you start to realize that that's all a scam, and that both the political parties are controlled by the same entity, but your family's not awake to that yet. Well, that leaves you in a precarious situation. That's part of the control mechanism. That most people will just say, well, I'm just rather not talk about politics. I don't want to be the black sheep in my family and have no friends. Try being not a liberal in New York. It's not easy because even if you don't support Trump and what he's doing and you're somewhere in the middle between Democrat, Republican, nobody wants to hear that shit. It's either you're against Trump or you're with him. If you're in New York right now, that's how these people are talking about it. So I hope you're doing well working out stretching. The question's going to be going forward is when does some point this Trump be removed and the people told that that person was not the rightful leader, that Trump has been either removed, died, or killed at some point in the past, then we weren't let on. When is Israel going to be dealt with? It doesn't appear that they're being dealt with now. Yeah, some rockets got through, but is Netanyahu actually dead or not? We don't know. Why can't we get positive confirmation on any of these questions? That's part of the problem. We can't get this. Why do we never seem to get a victory that's so big that we can see it, right? An arrest that's so large that everybody goes, oh, now I get it. All those people talking about this were right. And they get the confirmation from the other side that they need to wake those people up. All the people throughout the years that I've been talking to in my family, they say, well, you say all this stuff's going to happen, and it never did happen. And that's part of the problem with all these pundits that came out and said, oh, this is going to happen. There's going to be 10 days of darkness, and a new banking system will come out. And that might be what's going to happen in some future time, but they were talking about this years and years ago, and it never happened. So they lost credibility to people like the Charlie Wards and the Juan O'Savins and the Nino Rodriguez's and all these people, because they just came out of nowhere and started spewing a story that they all backed up that never occurred, right? And the reason that this thing with Iran is occurring is because what they were doing was telling you the people that were running Trump, the black hole, the black sun people, the Nazi people that were running Trump, that was their plan. So what they did was they belched back the plan of the Masons, right? The Albert Pike plan, the 3 World Wars plan that they needed to take control, and they made that their mantra, right? When they thought that you wouldn't notice it, because they'd say, well, no, it's Manga, dude. It's Manga. We're just taking back the country. We're going to make it right again. But in the background, we're actually putting in the AI, we're putting in Peter Thiel, we're putting in Sam Altman, we're putting in the mechanism that we're going to use to control you, we're putting the AI and the data centers in so that we can have the new thought police of the future that we're going to have, the pre-crime that we want to install, where there won't be any more crime because we'll be able to tell that you're going to commit a crime before you think about committing it, right? Which is impossible. Unless you could see the future. Predictive AI, predictive stuff like that. That's not a science, right? So I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching. That's the danger that's the ledge that we're standing on the edge of, and the abyss that's staring back at us, right? So these people want to have you in total control matrix where you can never leave. You can't go live in some area where we don't have access to you. We know where you are every moment of every day. We know every text you send. We know every email you've ever written. We know everything you've ever spoke online. Every sentence you've ever typed in a public forum, we have it. And therefore, if we have all that, we think we can know so much about you that we can tell what you're going to do in the future. We can know you so perfectly that we know exactly what you're going to do, which is not true, right? Because you can't predict the human mind. It's too large and vast of a thing, and it varies too much in individuals to be able to do that, in my view. You can do it to some effect with enough data, and that's what they're thinking that they're hoping that they can do. I think it's going to fail because I think in their essence most people want to be free. They want to have a government that's less intrusive in their lives, almost non-existent really, and just protects them, and where they give minimum taxes for maximum services. And we can do our society in a different way where we all support each other in smaller municipalities too, right? Where everybody grows something, where everybody has a gun, where everybody protects their neighbor, and therefore we're all protected that way, right? Where we have a different way that we go about doing things, where we're not allowing others to suffer and others to live in lack as when we prosper. There's no need for that. We need to reallocate resources and funds. We need this to happen soon. We need these people who are trying to control and set us up in wars to be removed from power, and we need some sort of reliable new agency installed that has the trust of the people that can take us forward at least till we can have some kind of honest elections and get honest politicians, if there is such a thing in place. And I don't see really anything like that happening right now, although they are trying to do the SAVE Act. They're trying to save the voting process, but this is way too late in the game. This should have all been done years ago in Trump's first term. They should have never allowed another presidential election until that was fixed. But they couldn't do that, right? They had to leave it in place so that Biden could be fake Biden could be put into power, and then they could open up the borders and allow all these illegal aliens in. That was the plan. So Trump couldn't win 2020. There's no way. Because if he did win, then the plan wouldn't have been able to go forward. So friends, I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. I'll continue to do these shows as long as I can, but until I see some definitive changes, something like mass arrests occur, some big arrests, or something of that effect, it doesn't make sense to just keep talking about this, right? We need action. This is a time for action, not talk. So friends, I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. And if you choose to, using the I am attribution each day, which is simply saying I am and something positive about yourself, you can speak your reality into existence. So I hope you're well. This is your friend in New York, Ash, MP News, signing off for now.